E-bikes can be expensive, and I get it. When you start looking around, you'll see models ranging from $600 all the way up to $6,000 or more. But here's the thing, while there are some parts worth paying a pretty penny for, not every part of an e-bike needs to be top of the line. In fact, there are a few areas where you can safely save money and still end up with an awesome, reliable ride. So today, I'm going to walk you through where you can cut costs smartly and where it's actually worth spending a little extra. Because saving money is great, but not if it means compromising your safety or having a miserable ride. As always, I'm Jenny, and you're watching NextJen. Let's start with the good news, the parts where it's usually fine to go budget friendly. First up, the drivetrain. That's your derailleur, chainring, cassette, all the pedally stuff. Unless you're tackling serious hills or trail riding, you really don't need a fancy Shimano Diore or SRAM GX setup. Even a Shimano Alivio is overkill for most casual budget riders. A basic 7-speed Shimano Tourney or Altus may be considered a cheap part by the bike snobs that turn their noses up at them, but it's more than enough for city riding and bike path cruising, especially since, if we're being honest, most casual e-bike riders leave their bike in top gear most of the time. It might not shift quite as buttery smooth or stay in tune as long as fancier gear, but it'll definitely get you where you're going just fine. And if you only ride in flat areas, you may even be able to get away with a single-speed e-bike and save some money there by not needing any extra gears at all. Next, suspension forks. A hydraulic suspension fork or even an air fork sounds nice, and they do work better, but a big part of what you're paying for are the weight savings over a heavy spring fork. And a heady e-bike is a silly thing to try and save 100 grams on. Most of the cheap spring forks you find on budget e-bikes are probably fine for basic cruising on the street. And if you're mostly riding on paved roads or smooth paths and you don't mind the little bit of bumpiness, you might not need a suspension fork at all. In fact, some people prefer rigid forks since it's both the lightest option and the longest lasting, not to mention they cost less. Accessories are another area where you can save. A lot of budget bikes come with basic plastic fenders, simple LED lights, or kickstands that are just okay, and that's fine. If those things aren't amazing out of a box, don't let that be a deal breaker. They're super easy to upgrade later if you want to. For most riders, there's no reason to pay extra for high-end accessories that come standard, especially if you won't really use them that much. And one more thing, motor power. Bigger isn't always better. A 500-watt motor is plenty for a lot of casual riders, especially on flat terrain. Unless you live somewhere super hilly or you plan to tow heavy loads, or you're just a heavy rider, a 750-watt or dual motor setup might just be overkill and over budget. For example, electric XP4 with a 500-watt motor instead of a 750-watt motor can save you several $100s. Now let's talk about where you shouldn't try and save money at all costs. These are the parts that really matter for safety and long-term reliability. First and foremost, the battery. This can be a fire risk if it's not up to standard. Always make sure the battery, or better yet the entire system, is UL certified. Look for UL 2271 on the battery or UL 2849 for the full electrical system. This means it's passed rigorous safety testing. You don't want to mess around here. And along with that, the charger. A quality charger from a known brand can help prolong your battery life and reduce risk. If your no-name e-bike comes with a cheap no-name charger that feels sketchy, it probably is. Brakes are another area where spending more could pay off, especially if you're a heavier rider and riding at higher speeds. Hydraulic disc brakes offer stronger, more consistent stopping power with less maintenance. Mechanical disc brakes are okay too. They're definitely not a deal breaker, especially if you're a lighter rider and you're riding slower, but try to avoid older rim brakes on a modern e-bike. They're basically considered obsolete these days. The last consideration is brand reputation. Sure, you can find plenty of $500 e-bikes on Amazon or eBay, but they come from strange companies with impossible to pronounce names that no one has ever heard of before. Is it worth saving a few $100 if your bike falls apart in 3 months and you can't get a warranty to cover it? There are a few things that come down to you. your weight, your riding style, and how much maintenance you're willing to do. Let's say you're a heavier rider or you often ride long distances or uphilly terrain. You're probably going to benefit from stronger brakes, a bigger battery, or a slightly beefier motor. It's worth spending a little more there. But if you're on the lighter side and just cruising around town casually, you can get away with a smaller, lighter setup and save some cash while doing it. Maintenance is another big one. Hydraulic brakes are more expensive, but they're basically set and forget. Mechanical disc brakes are cheaper, but they'll need adjustments more often. Tightening the cable, checking for brake pad rub, stuff like that. If you're comfortable doing your own tune-ups, you can definitely save some money with mechanical disc brakes. If not, hydraulic brakes might be worth it in the long run. The same goes for the motor type. Mid-drive motors usually offer better torque in hill climbing, but they're more expensive and harder on your chain. Hub motors are cheaper, simpler, and lower maintenance. Depending on where you ride and what you're comfortable fixing, one might be a better deal than the other. And speaking of where you ride, flat terrain means you can get away with a single speed or a low torque setup. But if you're dealing with hills, you'll want gears and more power. And it's worth spending a little more to avoid struggling up every incline. So at the end of the day, you don't have to spend several grand to get a great e-bike, but you do need to spend wisely. Prioritize safety. That means a certified battery, good brakes, and a solid frame. Then look at your own needs and decide where you can comfortably save a little and where it's worth investing a bit more. And remember, no matter what you save on, switching to an e-bike instead of driving a car for many trips is one of the best ways to save money overall. Fewer gas stops, and let's be honest, it's a lot more fun. A big thanks to all of my subscribers and everyone who takes part in the comments on my videos. Let me know in the comments below what you think are the smart places to save money on an e-bike, and if you're subscribed, then maybe I'll feature your answer at the end of one of my next videos. That's it for now. I'm Jenny. Stay charged, stay curious, hit subscribe, and I'll see you next time.